Okay, imagine this for a second. You're on a Zoom call, right? Talking procurement metrics, mid-sentence, and bam, your world just tilts. Skull splitting open, this high-pitched whine starts up behind your ear.
Yeah.
And the fluorescent lights, suddenly they feel like they're burning you. like you're a bug pinned under a magnifying glass.
Yeah, that's a classic migraine trigger, the light.
Exactly. Nausea starts creeping in. You have to mumble an excuse, turn the camera off, just bolt.
Trying to find a quiet, dark space.
Right. But this time, you don't even make it. You end up crumpled beside the printer, head against the wall, just trying to breathe.
Well, someone's probably jamming paper next to your head.
Pretty much. An intern jamming a USB stick, oblivious. This was Olivia's reality. Good job, steady pay, but this constant threat of a migraine hitting hard in front of everyone.
It's such a vivid and, frankly, terrifying picture.
Yeah.
But what's really striking is what Olivia did next, after the worst of it passed.
Yeah.
She didn't just, give up, lights down, ice pack on, she gets on her laptop, and she drafts this really careful professional request. Subject: formal aid or accommodation request.
Yeah.
Partial remote work. Medical.
Very specific.
Very. Clearly states the diagnosis chronic migraine disorder, and crucially, she notes it's formally assessed and documented.
So not just, I get headaches.
No, this is backed up. Cites her doctor recommending 2 days of remote work per week, minimum, specifically to avoid the trigger, those overhead lights. She's invoking the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Which requires reasonable accommodations.
Exactly. And she didn't stop there. She attached proof.
Like what?
Test results. Photosensitivity scores, measuring light sensitivity.
Right, which is huge for migraine.
Huge. And EMG readings, neurological stuff, even notes on her treatment compliance. She covered all the bases.
And her direct manager, Mark, he was initially okay with it, wasn't he?
Yeah, seemed totally fine. When she first mentioned it, he apparently just shrugged, said something like, sounds fair, we're hybrid anyway, you get stuff done.
So, manager on board, medical documentation, solid. Seems like it should be straightforward.
You'd think so. But that's the thing, isn't it? What happens when this clear, medically sound request, even with a supportive manager, runs into the corporate HR machine?
That's the collision point.
Precisely. And that's what this deep dive is all about. We're going to unpack what happens next. The layers of denial, the frankly cruel retaliation tactics that followed, and how Olivia's meticulous documentation, her sheer persistence, didn't just fight for her, but actually expose something systemic. It led to a major corporate reckoning.
Wow. Okay, so record keeping as a weapon, almost.
In a way, yeah, as a powerful form of advocacy.
So she sends in this carefully prepared request. What was the official response?
Well, 3 days later, a calendar invite pops up. ADA request internal review outcome. Meeting in conference room C.
Oh boy, conference room C sounds ominous.
Described as smelling like wet carpet and power trips. Mallory, the head of HR, is already there.
Mallory, got it. What was she like?
The description is pretty stark. Thin lips, perfect bun, reputation for strict, unyielding consistency. No greeting, just a clinical smile and a closed folder with Olivia's name.
Not a warm welcome.
Not at all. Mallory gets straight to it. Denial.
Just like that. What reasons did she give?
The usual suspects.
Yeah.
Operational consistency, department-wide precedent. Said allowing exceptions could be an equity concern.
Ah, the equity argument, even with documented medical need.
Exactly. Her big line was, everyone is treated the same here, which, landed like a slap, given the circumstances.
It completely ignores the point of accommodation laws.
Right. Mallory even said, we're not disputing the medical documentation, but we've determined your presence is critical to team cohesion.
Team cohesion for someone who needs to avoid triggers 2 days a week.
And then the clincher. If we did this for you, we'd have to do it for everyone, you understand?
Wow. Presented as a foregone conclusion.
Totally. The source says, it wasn't a question, it was a conclusion. Olivia, to her credit, apparently said, I don't think that's how AD law works.
Good for her.
Mallory just smiled that clinical smile again and repeated, we've reviewed everything internally. This is the decision.
It's amazing how often consistency is used to just shut down reasonable requests. It's about control, not fairness.
Absolutely. It sidesteps the whole point of the ADA.
Yeah.
So Olivia leaves. No tears in the office, apparently. But she gets home,
Yeah.
creates a new folder on her desktop, AD Denial Mallory, and she starts saving everything.
The documentation begins.
The serious documentation.
Yeah.
And she appeals, politely, professionally. Resubmits the doctor's letter, but this time with bolded language around reasonable accommodation.
Highlighting the key parts.
Yes. and adds a new memo from her neurologist, explicitly stating that prolonged exposure to those lights could cause disorientation, nausea, and in one case, temporary loss of speech.
Making it crystal clear, this isn't just discomfort, it's incapacitating.
Absolutely unambiguous, but the response
Let me guess. Not great.
took 5 business days, then a 2-sentence email,
Mm-hmm.
CC to no one, no signature,
Seriously, no signature.
just reiterating the denial. Cold as ice.
What did her manager, Mark, do? The one who initially said it sounded fair?
Olivia forwards him the email. He calls her an hour later, but on his personal cell.
Off the record.
Right. Says, this is crazy. You're one of our most consistent performers. He gets it. But.
There's always a but.
Always. He says, look, Liv, I agree with you, but I'm not trying to make waves. Mallory's got the VP's ear.
So he won't back her up officially.
Exactly. She asks if he'll put anything in writing. He sighs, refuses. Olivia felt like he was rooting for her from the sidelines, like it was a debate team, not her actual health and job.
That's incredibly isolating. Managerial retreat leaving her exposed.
Totally. And that's when things really start to shift. The retaliation begins.
How? What form did it take? Because often it's subtle, right?
Oh, very subtle. The very next day, her calendar becomes what the source calls a cruel improv sketch.
What does that mean?
Eating invites appointments, mysteriously disappearing. Then urgent syncs, scheduled literally minutes in advance, often when she's already booked.
Setting her up to fail.
Precisely. She comes back from lunch, finds invites marked missed. Often meetings with Mallory herself about vague things like alignment or engagement.
Purposefully making her look unresponsive or disorganized.
Exactly. Olivia, who is known for being reliable, suddenly looks double-booked, underinformed, and perpetually scrambling. Her performance didn't just slip. The source says it got throttled quietly, deliberately.
That kind of subtle sabotage, it's insidious. Is that a common tactic you see?
Absolutely textbook. It's about manufacturing a reason for dismissal that isn't the illegal retaliation it actually is.
Yeah.
Creates a paper trail.
And it works best in cultures where HR isn't accountable and managers are afraid to speak up.
Exactly. Then came the next blow. The coaching email.
The vague performance concerns.
Landed Thursday evening like a vulture on a windowsill. Super vague accusations, recent behavioral trends, concerns around collaboration style, responsiveness.
But no specifics, no examples.
No examples, no timestamps, just this smear of vague corporate accusation. Olivia said her inbox started feeling like a trapdoor.
Okay, this is where many people might just crumble or quit. But Olivia didn't.
This is the pivot. She didn't just react anymore. She went into full archive mode. Renamed that desktop folder again, Mallory Pushback.
Upping the ante.
And started a Word doc. Timeline of events. Created nested folders for everything. Emails, calendar issues, the medical docs, the denial chain.
Organizing the evidence.
And get this, a special folder for verbal encounters summarized. She typed out every single hallway comment, every raised eyebrow, every offhand dig from Mallory.
Wow. That level of detail is intense.
It gets more intense.
Yeah.
She started screen recording her own screen at 1 a.m.
Why?
Using free software, just in case something disappeared, just in case someone couldn't find an email she knew damn well she sent. Paranoia? Maybe. But necessary paranoia.
Her calendar became a crime scene map, apparently. Color-coded stress marker.
Yeah, she went from organized to, as the source says, obsessed, vigilant. She wasn't just reacting, she was building a case, brick by brick.
And then she got some confirmation, right, that she wasn't imagining things.
Yes. Huge moment. Isla, a data analyst, pulls her aside at lunch one day.
Okay.
Isla just says it straight. Mallory's targeting you.
Whoa.
And tells her about Jenna, a web accessibility specialist who'd filed an ADA request before. Surgery complications, needed to avoid stairs.
Let me guess Mallory handled it.
Yep. Same pattern. Scheduling problems, putting Jenna in rooms on the 3rd floor, then the collaboration concerns, the coaching emails. 3 months later, Jenna was offboarded, fired.
Finding the other person, confirming the pattern, that must have been huge for Olivia's resolve.
Transformative. It shifted it from this is happening to me to this is a systemic issue. It validates everything.
So what did Olivia do with that information?
Immediately adds a new section to her Word doc. Observed patterns. Historical behavior by HR head.
Documenting the system, not just her experience.
Exactly. And she adds a sheet to her migraine journal. Trigger events. Work-related only. Logging every detail. Pain level, light conditions, number of unscheduled meetings, her emotional state, workload, Mallory's response times.
connecting the stress directly to the physical symptom.
Meticulously. She realized, the source says, there was no justice coming. She wasn't just documenting anymore, she was building a case. Understanding she needed to show that pattern.
All the stress, the constant vigilance, it had to take a toll.
It did, leading to a really bad breaking point. Happened on a Wednesday, right after lunch. The danger hour, she called it.
What happened?
She was in one of those awful glass-walled conference rooms. No blinds, overhead lights like surgical beams.
Ugh. Prime trigger territory.
Absolutely. No warning this time.
Yeah.
Just blankness, cognitive static, her world tilted, legs moving on their own.
Oh, no.
She ended up crumpled on the landing between floors 6 and 7, clutching her temples, missing a shoe, just completely incapacitated.
That's terrifying. What did the company do? Call 911?
That's the truly egregious part. They didn't call an ambulance.
What?
They called her emergency contact. Her sister, who had to drive over and take her home.
That seems negligent at best.
It's shocking. Olivia later realized she'd bitten her cheek clean through during the episode, and the next morning,
Please don't say they disciplined her.
an email. Final written warning attendance and conduct.
You're kidding. After she collapsed at work due to a documented medical condition they refused to accommodate.
Exactly. And the email read like a form letter. No mention of the migraine, no mention of the collapse, just threats of termination.
That feels deliberate, malicious almost, to ignore the context like that.
It certainly seems designed to erase the medical reality, yet Olivia still didn't give up.
What else could she even do at that point?
Called her doctor, got a new, even sterner recommendation letter. ADA language highlighted in bold, even added a line about risk to others' liability.
Hitting them where it might hurt the legal liability angle?
Trying everything. She forwarded it to Mallory.
And Mallory's response?
Came back in less than 30 minutes. Thank you for the additional documentation. This does not change our assessment.
Still no signature.
No signature, no CC, no humanity. Just cold, unwavering denial.
It's like talking to a brick wall. A very legally questionable brick wall.
Pretty much. The end game was inevitable after that. Friday afternoon meeting invite?
The termination meeting?
Yep. Offboarded. Reason given. Continued performance concerns and failure to meet RO expectations.
Performance concerns they manufacture.
Exactly. Cold setting. Windowless room, Mallory opposite. Mark the manager, conveniently muted on a remote screen. Another HR rep reading a script.
How did Olivia react?
The source says she didn't blink, didn't fidget, just took it. Left feeling that nausea curling behind her ribs.
But that wasn't the end of her story.
Not even close. This is where her meticulous preparation really pays off.
Yeah.
Immediately after getting fired.
Yeah.
No rage, no tears, just action. Creates a new folder, litigation prep. Emails Helen Rosenthal, this labor law attorney, described as a former DO litigator, not cheap, not soft.
Sounds like the right person.
Subject line. ADA violation case, full documentation attached. And attaches, get this, 1.7 gigabytes of labeled hell.
1.7 gigabytes.
Everything. Timeline spreadsheet, coaching emails PDF, manager witness notes, the ADA denial chain PDF, company policy versus reality docs, all meticulously labeled.
That organized fury is incredible. Just handed the lawyer the entire case on a digital platter.
Precisely. But she didn't stop there. She had another move.
What was that?
Simultaneously, she emails her cousin, Gabriel Mason, who happens to be a federal compliance officer at the Department of Labor.
Oh, wow. An inside track.
Not really an inside track for favors, but someone who understands the system. Her email is short. Basically, wrongfully terminated after ADA denial, HR rep seems to handle these cases with disturbing consistency.
Hinting at the pattern.
Exactly. Gabriel's response was immediate. This is bad. I'm flagging it internally.
So a two-pronged attack, legal and federal. Smart.
Very strategic. Maximum pressure. And it worked.
How quickly?
3 weeks later, a certified letter arrives at her old office. From the Department of Labor Office of Disability Rights and Enforcement.
Official inquiry.
Announcing a preliminary inquiry into AD compliance procedures, specifically mentioning denial of accommodations, adverse performance docs, termination records.
How did Mallory react to that?
Initially scoffed, apparently, called it government busy work. But the source says her tone cracked. The pressure was building.
And the investigation started properly.
Oh, yeah. Gabriel told Olivia they were pulling Mallory's personnel files. A field compliance auditor, Elaine T. Morn, started doing interviews. Surgical, precise.
Who did she talk to?
Started with Mark, the manager, then Isla, the data analyst who tipped Olivia off, other HR staff, IT.
And did they find Jenna, the previous employee?
They did. Located her in Arizona. And Jenna didn't just talk. She submitted her own records. Screenshots, letters, even a shredded severance offer she'd kept.
Wow. More evidence of the pattern.
And it didn't stop there. Another former employee, a part-time QA analyst with fibromyalgia, had refused to sign an NDA when she left. She'd saved the draft and forwarded it to the investigators, too.
People were holding on to proof, waiting for a moment like this.
Yeah, seems so. Then Mallory made her big mistake.
What did she do? Panicked.
Looks like it. Tried to mass delete 3 years' worth of ADA request correspondence from her personal device.
Oh, no. Deleting evidence during an investigation, that's bad.
Very bad. A junior tech named Brandon flagged it. Within 24 hours, her access was frozen. They requested a full forensic log of HR database activity going back 5 years.
The cover-up attempt became the smoking gun.
Classic mistake. And the investigation just ballooned from there.
How so?
The DOL request expanded. Now included FMLA denials, Family and Medical Leave Act.
So looking beyond just ADA.
Right. And 2 new claimants surfaced with ADA overlap issues. Olivia felt, the source says, like gravity. It wasn't just her anymore. She was the first domino that knocked over the whole line.
Exposing a much bigger systemic problem, not just one rogue HR manager.
Exactly. It became undeniable.
So what were the consequences for the company? This must have hit them hard.
Oh, definitely. The Q4 stakeholder update buried a line about pending regulatory matters. Internally, things were scrambling, internal restructuring of compliance and HR operations.
Trying to clean house.
And a memo went to the C-suite, warning of urgent ADA liability exposure. Preliminary estimate. Over $7.4 million.
$7.4 million. Wow.
And it specifically mentioned Mallory's egregious pattern behavior. The link was direct.
So Mallory, what happened to her?
Her fall was fast, badge disabled, escorted out the back exit. LinkedIn profile went dark. Her name was apparently trending locally with the phrase fired without severance.
Ouch. No golden parachute there.
Seems not. Olivia's documentation directly led to accountability at the highest level of HR involved.
And what about Olivia herself? Does she get justice?
Her lawyer, Helen Rosenthal, negotiated a settlement, described as generous, covered wrongful termination damages, ADA penalties, all her attorney fees.
Rice.
And included a clause barring the company from ever contacting her again.
Freedom.
She used it to clear her mortgage, student loans, and set aside funds for a future venture. The source says she felt peace earned at last.
That's huge after everything she went through.
And the public accountability was clear, too. An official announcement. Federal investigation confirmed systemic ADA violations at Verdict's core. Public penalties announced, $2.8 million.
Not quite the $7.4 million internal estimate, but still significant.
Significant public penalty. And there was a footnote in the announcement, acknowledging a terminated employee whose documentation and testimony served as the foundation for the audit.
So her contribution was officially recognized, even if anonymous.
Exactly. Her impact was undeniable.
And the final twist, what was Olivia's next step?
She deleted her job search folder, created a new one, Aurora Wellness, LLC.
Starting her own thing.
Yes. Inside, a pitch deck, logo concepts, a roadmap for migraine-safe productivity tools. She'd apparently been beta testing herself. Things like interface colors, soft fonts.
Wow. Using her experience to build something positive.
The irony, right? The company whose environment caused her so much suffering ended up funding the foundation for a business designed to help people like her.
That's incredible. Did she hear from old colleagues?
She did. Got an email from one former colleague thanking her for not going quietly, for not disappearing like they wanted you to, and for proving we weren't crazy.
Vindicating others who suspected something was wrong.
Yeah. It really underscores the broader impact.
So looking back at this whole deep dive, it really is a story about how one person, through quiet, tactical perseverance and just relentless documentation.
Meticulous documentation.
Right. Not only got justice for herself, but actually triggered this huge federal investigation, exposed systemic problems in a major company.
It's an amazing example of how individual action, when done strategically, can have massive ripple effects, far beyond the initial incident.
Absolutely. So thinking about this, what does it mean for you listening? It really makes you consider the unexpected power of just keeping records. Thorough, strategic documentation.
And the quiet strength it takes to stand up for your rights, even when it feels isolating.
Yeah. How could a single, really well-supported story, like Olivia's, become that cornerstone for real systemic change, for accountability in workplaces? It's definitely something worth mulling over, especially, in the complex work environments we navigate today.